What up, TCK Potters? I'm your host, Sky Guasco, joined always by my man, Lukas Kaser, and you are tuned into the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Candlestick Kids, leave a rate and review anywhere you're listening to your podcast, and follow us on IG at fantasyfootball_TCK Pod and on Twitter at TCK_pod. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get into it. What up, TCK Potters? Sky coming at you solo for another episode of the TCK Pod. Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast, episode 223. Rolling solo tonight. You had Lukas and Dwayne on Tuesday, rather. Lukas and I both on Wednesday and Thursday, and now it is Friday, and I'm rocking solo here. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a mock draft here. I'm going to be doing a Superflex. So I have got this up here for you. Just going to make sure everything is good to go. And we are looking at the 2020 season here. I got a PPR signed up. We're going snake, of course. We're using the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. It's just the easiest, best way to go here for us, for the individuals. I've got 12 teams. We're going to randomize 3 times as we always do. Let's do 1, 2, 3. We have the 4th slot. Got 1 quarterback mandatory. We are doing a super flex mock draft here for quarterback week to round out. 1 quarterback mandatory slot, 2 running back, 2 receiver, a tight end. I have a regular flex position and then another super flex position. We will get rid of kicker and defense for this, for sake of the podcast. And for the bench, we are just going to do 5 just to keep it quick here. I got all the ADPs ready to go. Let's get this draft underway. All right. Checking in here, get this loaded up. All right, so what we're looking for here in Superflex rankings is, let's see here, get rid of this. Taking a little bit longer than usual here. All right, so if you're familiar with the Draft Wizard, you've seen us use it before. We are going with the Superflex. So as you can see already, even at the 4th position, we got Patrick Mahomes off the board right away. Lamar Jackson available. I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson here. We'll make that one easy. Now, if I was in maybe the middle or the later rounds, I may consider punting quarterback just for maybe a round to make sure I get somebody else. But up at the top here with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, I got to make sure to go ahead and get one of those guys for sure. All right, so we are in the 2nd round already. You know how the Draft Wizard works. It's very quick. Now, we have the Premium Hall of Fame package that Lukas and I pay for here to make sure that we can bring it to you live and give you all the best assets, which we encourage you to grab as well. We've got down here, we have the overall rankings due to ECR. ECR, of course, is the expert consensus ranking. We can also look for their roster later on. We can go through all the positions, of course. We have our cheat sheets, which I like to look at, which are a little bit easier. I'm going to get rid of and hide the drafted players. It's easy. Now, these tiers right here are actually based on my rankings. So I'm not going to talk through my rankings too much during this podcast because we've done that in previous ones, and it's just something for another time. But as you can see on here, this is what we're looking for as far as these tiers go. So if we're looking in the 2nd round here, we already have Lamar Jackson, obviously. So I can look really quick at the draft board just to see how things are going. And you can see right here, McCaffrey, Saquon, no surprise there. Mahomes and Jackson go back and back-to-back there. And we get Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Zeke, Prescott, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, and then all the way back in the 2nd round, we don't have another quarterback until Russell Wilson here right before us. Now, I have to say, if Russell Wilson were to fall to us there, he is one of my top 5 quarterbacks, I should say. I would have probably picked him in the 2nd round here and just gone quarterback heavy for this draft. However, because he didn't fall there, we look at the quarterbacks really quick. And Josh Allen is up next. Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Not feeling any of those right now. Maybe in a round or 2, but not right now. So let's look at elsewhere. We are going to Kenyon Drake here. So these rankings are based on the ECR, but what I'm looking at here, these tiers are based on my actual rankings. So it says that I've got Kenyon Drake here as the best available running back, in my personal opinion. Godwin, Allen, Golladay, Evans, of course. Now, I know that there is wide receiver galore up here coming back to me in just, 8 picks. So I'm going to go running back here because I just feel like I want to make sure that I get a top running back. For me, it's Kenyon Drake. I expect him. He's going to be, he was a top 5 running back over the back half of the season. David Johnson was even a top 5 running back in the first couple of games before he got hurt. And Kenyon Drake came in. I do like Miles Sanders a lot. Love me some Nick Chubb, of course. Josh Jacobs, all these guys, CEH. I like all these guys a lot, but Kenyon Drake for me is going to be the pick here. 76% from the ECR. I like that a lot, so I'm going to go with Kenyon Drake. Let's see who goes after him. A slew of running backs. I knew that was going to happen, so I'm glad I was ahead of the crew. Now, Chris Godwin was the only receiver off the board. Travis Kelce goes after him. So if we're looking again, I have another running back. Man, I'm tempted to go CEH right here, but Todd Gurley looks pretty good as well. Let's see what we're doing on wide receivers because there's a lot of options here. I love Allen Robinson here, Kenny Golladay, Mike Evans. Of course, George Kittle's also available. If I go George Kittle here, then I'm going my top quarterback, top 7 running back, Kenyon Drake 7 for me, and my top 2 tight end. Let's see where the quarterbacks lay right now. Again, they're going to stay the same for a while, so I think I'm good there. So for me, I think I can pass on running back maybe one more round, although a lot are going to go. I think I'm going to pass on receiver too. So for me, it's between Kittle and Gurley. I just feel like I can get somebody of Gurley's stature maybe later on. I've already got Kenyon Drake. I'm going to go with Kittle here. Now, this is very risky, of course, because I'm going quarterback early and tight end early. But let's see how this draft goes. So I've got Lamar Jackson. I'm going to go with George Kittle. Now, I know that I would not do this in a normal circumstance, but with Deebo Samuel out, I think George Kittle is going to be the man. He was already just 0.1 fantasy points behind Travis Kelce last year, getting not as many targets, not as much target share. So I like that a lot. All right, running backs went off the board here in the 3rd round. We had Drew Brees, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, and Matt Stafford. Some of these teams right here went to quarterbacks, okay? So this one here, Kyler Murray and Josh Allen, that's nasty. Dak Prescott and Drew Brees, love that too. Russell Wilson and Matt Stafford, great. So Matty Stafford is kind of that first late-round quarterback that we talk about a lot here on the podcast, usually going in about the 10th or 11th round. In this draft, he's going in the 4th because it's a super flex. So let's take a look at the quarterbacks here. There's so much depth at quarterback. I'm going to pass, I think, until the wraparound, but I think at this 5th spot, we're going to get another quarterback. So let's punt it there. Let's see who's available at running back still. Chris Carson, I think I'm going to fade a little bit just because I'm not super sure that he's got that workload lined up. He's got the fumble problems. I do like Chris Carson, but Carlos Hyde is going to take some of that work as well. Le'Veon Bell, I actually am coming around on. I know that if you listen to this podcast a lot, I talk a lot of shit about Le'Veon Bell. It's not him, it's the situation. James Conner, I like here a lot too. David Johnson, I could deal with. David Montgomery and Kareem Hunt, Jonathan Taylor, Mark Ingram. Those are guys I would love to see in the 6th round. Probably a little too late there. We also do not have a receiver yet. So let's take a look. Amari Cooper, Robert Woods, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen. So you know what? I am between. I don't want Amari Cooper, as you all know. I think one of these running backs is going to fall back to me. I could deal with not going another quarterback, so I could pass on that idea. I don't want Amari Cooper. Between Robert Woods and Calvin Ridley, I give the edge to Robert Woods right now. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go with Robert Woods here at the 4th pick, and then we'll see how it falls. Calvin Ridley, of course, goes. A bunch of receivers, so I'm glad I got Robert Woods there. A.J. Brown looks good here. Tyler Lockett, DJ Chark, I like those guys a lot, but I'm going to pass on them here. Let's look at the running backs again. Everybody's still available. For me, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, Chris Carson, Carson Wentz, all those guys are still available. Not worried about that. All right, so what it comes down to here, we're looking at another running back, and let's see, receivers. Yeah, plenty of receivers, although I do love A.J. Brown here. Let's see. I think I'm going to go with another running back just to make sure I got one. So Chris Carson, love him when he's healthy. I'm not sure he's going to get all the work, though. Fading him a little bit. I love Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, even Tyler Lockett more than Chris Carson this year, so I'm going to pass on that. Le'Veon Bell, I'm just not confident it's going to happen, unfortunately, as much as he's going to get the work. I don't think it's productive work. Surprisingly, I think I'm actually going to go with James Conner here in the 5th round, because when James Conner is healthy, which he will be coming into the season, as he's healthy coming into the season, James Conner is going to get that work. He's going to get the pass catching work as well. Big Ben running that offense again. I think they're going to be healthy and just fine. So I like James Conner there. So far, you can see my roster: Lamar Jackson, Kenyon Drake and James Conner, running back, George Kittle and Robert Woods as my tight end and receiver. Okay, coming after me here, you got David Johnson, Chris Carson, Le'Veon Bell, Jonathan Taylor. No big. I can already tell that right here, my 2 guys that I was hoping for in the 6th round did fall to me. That's Mark Ingram, David Montgomery, and Kareem Hunt. Now, for me, I'm probably, let's see, ECR, you can see right here, ECR has 35% Mark Ingram, which I think is a great call. I think I'd rather not take Mark Ingram and take J.K. Dobbins in the next round and go maybe David Montgomery instead. So I like that a little bit. Let's look down the list here just because. Raheem Mostert just got news today that when I'm recording this that Raheem Mostert wants out of San Francisco. That's a conversation for another time. I think it's a good move for Raheem Mostert to capitalize on the hype. Shanahan's smart to cut bait while he can. I think that's a good move for both sides. But I'm going to fade Raheem Mostert, even though I've been drafting him a lot this offseason because I'm just not sure. Kareem Hunt, again, still a quote-unquote backup. I'd love him maybe in the 7th round, not in the 6th, though. Mark Ingram I like a lot, but I like J.K. Dobbins instead. So let's see here. J.K. Dobbins way down at 41, so we got plenty of time on him. Let's take a look at the receivers again really quick. Who's still left? Oh, plenty of guys. Tyler Lockett. I would actually take DK Metcalf over Tyler Lockett personally. I like that a lot. Y'all know I like Michael Gallup, Marvin Jones. So there's plenty here. We don't need a double tight end. We're going to wait on it. Let's take a look at the quarterbacks. Big Ben Roethlisberger is my 2nd quarterback in a Superflex. I like a lot, but Cam is still available. I wouldn't mind Tannehill in a Superflex, Baker in a Superflex, Joe Burrow even, Garner Minshew. I think there's a couple of guys down here I could still capitalize on, even though it's Superflex. I think I'm going to capitalize on those guys later on. Let's look at the running backs, and I'm actually going to go against ECR. And they are telling me to draft Mark Ingram. I'm actually going to go with David Montgomery instead. I'm going to take that as my 3rd running back just because I don't think Mark Ingram handles a full season. And if he doesn't, then unfortunately I'm coming up against that. So that's definitely a challenge there. All right. So with all these quarterbacks coming off the board for YouTubers, you can see. For the podcasters, you can't see, unfortunately. I have Cam Newton that just came off the board here, of course, now with New England, 6th round ADP. Big Ben, Ryan Tannehill, and Baker Mayfield. So I think we are going to have to go with another quarterback right now. Mark Ingram is still available, which is ridiculous. That might change my attitude a little bit. DK Metcalf still available as my 2nd receiver. Let's look at the quarterbacks here. Jared Goff, Burrow, Minshew. A lot of these guys have 2 quarterbacks already. I don't see them going to 3 quarterbacks. Actually, I am one of only 2 teams that does not have a 2nd quarterback already, and that team is already picked, so they're behind me. So I'm confident that I'm going to be able to get some of these guys: Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Garner Minshew, Drew Lock, some of these guys down here, even Tyrod Taylor. So I'm going to risk it one more round because I think I have to go with DK Metcalf or Mark Ingram. And let's see here. I have 3 running backs already. Feel good about that. I need another receiver. Got Robert Woods. I need a big play upside guy. I'm going to go with DK Metcalf here in the 7th round. I feel good about that. So DK was my pick there. Start getting some of those quarterbacks off the board again. Joe Burrow goes. Derek Carr, Jared Goff. Okay, so we're looking at more receivers here. Still plenty of depth. I'm not worried about that. I've already got my tight end. I need to look at a 2nd quarterback. My running backs are here. I think I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins in the 9th round if he doesn't get picked. James White is still out there. Tariq Cohen's still out there. Matt Breida. A lot of these guys. Jordan Howard even as a 4th running back. I love that depth. So I am going to go in the quarterback realm and take a look here. It's telling me to take Jimmy G. I'm a 49er fan. If you listen to the podcast, you know that I'm a 49er guy. I just can't do it. I can't pull the trigger on Jimmy, unfortunately. So I am going to skip on Jimmy, and I'm going to go with my man Gardner Minshew here, who actually was outpacing Kyler Murray, played a couple games less than Kyler Murray. I'm not saying he is Kyler Murray. They have different skill sets, but stats-wise, Gardner Minshew played very, very well last year. I like that a lot. Now, here's a question. Let's see here. Drew Lock is staring me right in the face. He's my third quarterback. Now, look at my team real quick, okay? We have Lamar Jackson and we have Gardner Minshew. In a super flex, I'm going to be playing two quarterbacks. So I love, obviously, Lamar Jackson. Gardner Minshew, though, and Drew Lock, I think, are similar quarterbacks. Drew Lock's got the weapons, and Gardner Minshew's got the rushing ability. So they kind of offset each other. I think that's a nice 1-2 punch as my second quarterback option weekly. So I'm going to earmark right here Drew Lock. Let's take a look at everybody else, see who's available. Drew Brees, J.K. Dobbins, man. I don't know if he's going to last to the 10th, but it might be worth a risk. Let's see what happens. And then I've got wide receivers, Brandon Cooks. I still have plenty here. So I'm going to go with my third quarterback, and I'm going to go lock up Drew Lock right now. I just think that that's something I want to do now. I've still got another few rounds to get the rest of my roster. There goes J.K. Dobbins, of course, in the 9th round. If I were to do it differently, I probably – let's see if I could just I can redo it. You've seen me do it before. Here, I'll just do it just because. Undo. This is the beauty of the draft wizard. I'm going to hit that. Now I could go back over here, and I know that he was going to get – it's a mock draft, so I want to see how the team looks out. I'm actually going to go with J.K. Dobbins instead. Make sure I lock him in as my 4th running back, see which quarterbacks fall back to me, and maybe I can get Drew Lock anyway. Obviously, there's a best of both worlds. Okay, looks like I will be able to, so that worked out there. So Dwayne Haskins Drew Lock does not. I wanted him in the 9th round. I'm just going to go ahead and pick him in the 10th instead. So with the draft wizard, obviously if this is a real draft, I can't go back on my pick, but with the draft wizard, I'm able to undo the pick if I wanted to do that. So I've got J.K. Dobbins and a bunch of receivers went off the board. Evan Ingram at tight end, Tariq Cohen, a bunch of tight ends, Goddard, Henry, Gronk, Hooper, and Gesicki all go in the 10th round. Ronald Jones, Matt Breida as running backs, and then Haskins, I get Drew Lock, Rivers, Teddy B, and then 4 running backs off the board. So in the 11th round, this is where you start getting the handcuffs off. We've only got 3 rounds left, as you can see here. So let's take a look at our roster overall. We've got Lamar Jackson, Kenyon Drake, James Conner, Robert Woods, DK Metcalf, George Kittle, David Montgomery. We got Gardner Minshew as our super flex, J.K. Dobbins, and Drew Lock. So obviously we've got, if you look at our board here, we've got 4 running backs, 3 quarterbacks. We've got George Kittle, and we've got just 2 wide receivers. But let's fix that right now. Let's take a look and see who we can get at wide receiver. Nice running backs still left, actually. So we might do that on the turnaround. There's a couple guys I still like. But with lack of depth at wide receiver, we need to bolster that, obviously. So according to my tiers, I've got Jamison Crowder and I've got Sterling Shepard here. Down a little bit further, I've got Mike Williams, which I like the upside, Jerry Jeudy. Preston Williams is my dog. I got Justin Jefferson. Rager I like a lot. Even going down further, maybe Deshaun Jackson later. Even though I've got these guys in a higher tier right now, this is kind of against what I want to do overall. I think I want to take the upside right now, Preston Williams, to make sure that I get him in the 11th round and then just have one of these other guys that I think are kind of the same later on. I was doing a lot more research on Preston Williams. I just released in our TCK draft guide, you can check out the comparison between Preston Williams and Devontae Parker. And when I broke down the first 9 games with Preston Williams outpaced Devontae Parker in reception and targets, receptions, and yards. Devontae Parker did have 1 more touchdown, but they were back-to-back, a wide receiver 36 and 37 when Preston Williams got hurt. Gesicki and Devontae Parker took off after Preston Williams got injured. They were kind of all the same before that. So Preston Williams could be the number 1 in Miami, believe it or not. We all know that Fitzmagic loves to chuck it, so I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to go with Preston Williams. I just love him. I think he's going to be great there. Raise this up a little bit for you. So I got Preston Williams. It's a little bit of a reach. I get it, but this is all running backs right now. This is great. So I'm going to be able to get plenty of receivers. Perfect. Literally, there was I picked the only receiver in the 11th and 12th round. If you're seeing online on YouTube, you can tell. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, it's the Candlestick Kids on YouTube. You can pause the podcast, go find us on there to check us out. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 of the last 16 picks were running backs in the 11th to 12th round. I'm super glad that I went ahead and took J.K. Dobbins. I've already got 4 running backs. I didn't have to wait on it. When everybody else was chunking up, look, if you can see on YouTube, you can see all this yellow. All this yellow are receivers. People were going receivers early. Now, look, they got some awesome receivers, but look at some of these running back depths. Okay, Leonard Fournette. Let's see. Leonard Fournette, CEH, and Duke Johnson. Don't like that. Jonathan Taylor, Mark Ingram, Phillip Lindsay, Damian Williams. Don't like that. DeAndre Swift, Tariq Cohen, Ronald Jones, Kerryon Johnson. Don't like that. A lot of these guys went wide receiver heavy, and it's going to beat them up a little bit in Superflex because it's just a different style draft. So I've got 2 picks left. I've got 3 receivers now. I am looking at another receiver unless I got some crazy value. I like Zach Moss here, though. How about another quarterback just in case? Nah, it's everybody else is pretty much gone. Take a look at the tight ends. Hayden Hurst is still out there. I don't need a second tight end with George Kittle, though, yet anyway. So I'm looking at Jamison Crowder or Sterling Shepard. I am looking for some upside plays, though. Zach Moss, I think, is going to have to be the pick here. All those running backs went. They're going to continue to go. Zach Moss already lined up for that Frank Gore role. Frank Gore had 11 carries inside the 5-yard line last year, only converted 2 of them. That is horrendous efficiency. I love my man Frankie G, but that is not going to cut it. A younger, 15 years younger, Zach Moss is going to get it done. He's the same size. They're going to make it happen. Devin Singletary is going to be fine inside, like between the 20s, but Zach Moss is going to be the dude inside the red zone and the goal line. I like that a lot as my 5th running back, and I got this young depth here, J.K. Dobbins and Zach Moss, who if Singletary or Ingram get hurt, those guys are going to be RB1s right away, and I'm getting them in the 9th and the 12th round. I like that a lot. So I've got 3 receivers only. I've got 3 quarterbacks. I got the tight end. Got to go receiver here. And let's see, Jamison Crowder is still available. I do like Mike Williams, Jerry Jeudy. I kind of like Jefferson here, though, and I think I'm going to actually go Jefferson. Let me just keep taking a look. Deshaun Jackson, rather, is kind of fun because of the big playability. Worried about that, though. Jalen Reagor as well. I just don't know that he's going to get a slot right away. Henry Ruggs is fun. In a deeper draft, I'm probably drafting a lot of those guys, but we're only doing 13 rounds right now. So because of that, I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson. You can see him right here for the Minnesota Vikings, taking over that, hybrid Diggs role, but I think he's also going to be playing it over the slot as well. Love that in Minnesota for Kirk Cousins. So as my 4th receiver here in 13 rounds, I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson. In a deeper league, I love Mike Williams. I love Jerry Jeudy, Crowder as well. I just don't think that I would need him by then. So this draft is going to wrap up. We get a B grade. I always talk about the grades that I don't really hold too much to because it's all based on ECR, such as a couple rounds ago, if I went Preston Williams later and I didn't pick him right away, but I went Jamison Crowder because that's who they recommended, I would have had a higher grade. So those are things that I'm not really tripping on. Maybe if I went Godwin over Kenyon Drake or something, if he was higher, I would have got a better grade. I'm not tripping on that, though. So basically, here's what we're looking at. We are looking at Lamar Jackson, Kenyon Drake, James Conner, Robert Woods, DK Metcalf. Then we have George Kittle at tight end. We have David Montgomery as my flex for right now. Gardner Minshew is a super flex. J.K. Dobbins. Drew Lock is a nice 3rd option at quarterback. And we have Preston Williams, Zach Moss, and Justin Jefferson. I like this team a lot, actually. And if you take a look back at the draft board, what we are looking at here is, again, going running back in – a little bit low there. We go Lamar Jackson up front. Got to do that in the top 4 rounds. I'm surprised he even fell. A lot of times in Superflex, these 2 are the quarterbacks, and then you get Christian McCaffrey and Saquon down in here. So they were switched. I got to take advantage of Lamar. Coming back around, though, I had Chris Godwin that I could have taken, Travis Kelce as well, Nick Chubb, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake. I feel really good about Kenyon Drake in that Cardinals offense, so I had to go with him. George Kittle fell to me in the 3rd. Robert Woods, I think, is the number 1 in L.A. for the Rams anyway, maybe, aside from Cooper Kupp's touchdowns. So I like Robbie Woods. James Conner and David Montgomery I thought were good values, 5 and 6. DK Metcalf, great value in the 7th round, in my opinion. I think he overtakes Tyler Lockett this year for Seattle. So having him as my second big play receiver, I think is great. Led the NFL in red zone targets this last season. I think he converts a lot more of those this year, has double-digit touchdowns. Pumped on that. Gardner Minshew and Drew Lock in the 8th and the 10th round. Great upside. A little bit of rushing ability with Lock, but he's got all those weapons. Great rushing upside with Minshew, plus he's quite efficient as well. He gets in Jay Gruden from Washington, who loves to chuck it. DJ Chark, the rest of those options I think is going to be great. Chris Thompson on the backfield, awesome. J.K. Dobbins, one of my favorite young running backs, maybe my favorite rookie running back, period, in this draft, outside of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I love him in the 9th round. Preston Williams, great upside, as I mentioned, in the 11th. Kind of a gamble, but I love him if he turns out to be a number 1 there. And then Zach Moss, again, just kind of a steady play as my 5th running back, but also could be an RB1 if Singletary goes down or he gets double-digit touchdowns that Frank Gore should have had last year with about 120, 150 carries there. And then Justin Jefferson, last pick in the 13th round. So that is the team there to gobble up the PPR points. Again, just a real quick one for y'all here with the Superflex. Here are the rosters if you're curious and how it breaks down. Really stoked on it. Lamar Jackson, Kenyon Drake, James Conner, Robert Woods, DK Metcalf, George Kittle, David Montgomery, Gardner Minshew, J.K. Dobbins, Drew Lock, Preston Williams, Zach Moss, and Justin Jefferson. Quick episode here. This is just a super flex mock draft. I hope you enjoyed taking that quarterback early, but then you got to take them in the middle and late as well. I thought I got good young upside there with the options, and there was still plenty on the waiver wire as well. And then I went running back, and you got to follow that up. And then, of course, a little bit late on the receiver, but you see how much depth is there in the receiver all the way through your draft. Go George Kittle. Love that, especially with Debo out. He's going to be just fine. So appreciate you tuning in to another episode of the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Sky Guasco. Please make sure to give us a subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you're watching now, comment below. Let me know how you feel about this team overall, maybe what I should have gone either way if I were to audible. Also, make sure to leave a rate and review on the podcast wherever you're listening. Appreciate that. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at fantasyfootball_TCK pod and on Twitter at TCK_pod. And go ahead and pre-order the draft guide. They're flying off the shelves. We've got a lot of interest in them already, so we appreciate everybody supporting those. Go get yourself a draft guide, and you can get those at tckpod.com. $5 for the draft guide, $5 for the in-season package, $15 for both of those and some extra. So make sure you go get one of those. Appreciate y'all. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Hopefully football is around the corner. Let's stay positive, everybody. Happy Friday. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you next time on the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Sky Guasco, and I am out of here.